Hi, I'm Janelle Riley. Welcome to Virtually Together. Today we're going to be talking to really one of my favorite writers. She has never written a bad movie. Her first produced screenplay was The Post, directed by Steven Spielberg and starring a couple of up-and-comers, Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. She then co-wrote Long Shot, which is such a fantastic movie. I can't even count how many times I've seen it. And then she adapted the beloved young adult novel all the Bright Places, and it's just fantastic. It's on Netflix now. You should check it out. And she's just a really cool person. So this is my chat with Liz Hannah. So thank you so much for joining us, Liz Hannah. As I said in the intro, your first produced screenplay was The Post, directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. Is it after that? Is it all downhill from there?
Pretty much. I mean, it really does raise the bar pretty high. I was actually talking about it with a friend of mine last night. It's not just that they're some of the greatest filmmakers and talents that we have in the industry, but they're also really wonderful, lovely people. And that is actually the thing, that raised the bar super high. Is like I got used to working with kind of the best people and most lovely people. And so it was a pretty crazy experience.
And one of the reasons I want to talk to you, first of all, I've been wanting to talk to a writer, but currently on Netflix, you have your film, which you wrote, and you're also a producer on, All the Bright Places. And this is, I'm not saying that I'm happy we're on lockdown, but it gives everyone no excuse to not check out this amazing film. And it's, I know such a beloved book. Were you at all nervous about adapting it for the screen?
Absolutely. I was really fortunate to come onto it a few years ago, and Elle Fanning was attached to star and produce. And I'd been a fan of Elle's work for a long time, and wanted to work with her. And so I read the book, and it's really, I mean, the fan base is so passionate about it, and it's such a specific book to so many people. Really talk about mental health and excuse me, and talking about love and loss and trauma and all these things. So I was terrified to adapt it, but I sort of think that anything that terrifies you is probably the thing you should do. So I sucked it up and went on with it.
And you have a pretty good relationship with Netflix because you also worked on season 2 of Mindhunter.
I did. Yeah, I'm big fans of them. Hope they continue to be fans of me.
And what are you working on now?
I just finished up a limited series that we were actually supposed to go into production in May. And so we'll see. I think everything's kind of on hold now. But I am about to begin the adaptation of a book called Under Another Name that I'm going to direct.
Oh, wow. Oh, so I know you've been wanting to direct for a while. I assume that's
Yes.
the goal. What made this the perfect project for that?
Well, Amy Pascal, who produced The Post, and I've worked with subsequent to The Post, we've tried to kind of get things off the ground. It's never really, hit perfectly. She called me about 3 days before Christmas break, and she was like, I have the book, and sent it to me. And I read it in 24 hours and called her when I got back from the break and was like, all right, let's figure this out. So she and Rachel O'Connor, her producing partner, are producing this, and Chris Morgan, who I've been a huge fan of for years and years and years. He's producing as well with Ainsley, his producing partner, and we're doing it at Universal. So it really was kind of an amazing confluence of events of people I had either worked with or been dying to work with, and then a book that I felt like really hit kind of the stuff that I wanted to talk about and the stuff I was interested in diving into.
For those of us who don't know, can you tell us what the book is about?
I can't yet.
Okay.
The book has not been. The book comes out, I think it's March next year.
Oh,
And it's a thriller. That's all I'm going to say.
ooh, intriguing. I should also mention you co-wrote one of my favorite movies of last year, Long Shot. And that is one of those movies that, I keep telling everybody about. And then when they see it, they're like, why did I not see this movie sooner? Like everybody loves this movie. Charlize Theron plays, a woman running for president. I had hoped maybe it would, look less quaint by this year, that it was
Right.
like so crazy that we could elect a woman. But, we have it looks like it's going to be another guy.
Yep. And I think that's pretty set in stone at this point. It'll either be, unfortunately, the same guy or a different guy. Yeah, I thank you so much. I love that movie. Actually, I have a very special spot in my heart for that movie. I've known Charlize forever. I worked for her when I interned for her company when I was in my early 20s, and so when I started writing, we had talked about things to work on and work together on. And actually, Mindhunter was the first thing we worked together on. She's an executive producer on it, and so we Long Shot, which was called Farscape at the time, and came up, and I was able to jump on board and join the team. And I think for us, it was really a movie about love, and love in a very, I think, adult way, which is you end up, I find, most times falling in love with your best friend, and if you're lucky enough and fortunate enough, that's the person who falls in love with you too. And so we kind of just made a movie about that. And it's been, again, I don't want anyone to be stuck inside or unhealthy or anything like that. I hope that we all go back to some version of normal sometime soon. But I have been getting messages from people watching Long Shot over the last couple of weeks, and it's nice to have made something that people can watch and laugh and have a couple hours of, not thinking about what's going on.
It reminds me of movies like Dave or The American President, where, it's kind of about politics, but not really. It's more a relationship story. And it's hopeful and it feels good. And yeah, I think we could use
Thank
it
you.
right now.
I agree. I had to stop watching the news. I'm like, the whole first week of this, I really was consuming so much news and watching so much MSNBC, and really just kind of overwhelmed myself, and I was like having a variety of panic attacks throughout kind of the week. And so this week I decided to just stop. I couldn't listen to it or watch it. And I feel like the cleansing of that has helped a little bit. I think it's just, there's so much going on right now, and there's nothing we can do except stay inside, and try and convince other people to stay inside. And so the lack of control for a control freak is not really great.
Not to sound glib, but I think of writers as pretty solitary people anyway. You have to
Sure.
have that dedication to be in a room. Has it disrupted your work life? I mean, it probably has, because you're supposed to be prepping a movie.
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, I have an office outside of my home that I usually work at. I usually go there 5 days a week and have pretty, some pretty legitimate office hours. It's like 10 to 5 or whatever. And so it's been a real change to get back into the flow of working from home. My husband, who's also a writer, we're both working from home now. So that's also a balance of trying to figure out kind of who can deal with the insane puppy for 6 hours while the other person writes, and then we switch off. So it's definitely, I think, been disruptive in just getting used to what everybody else is getting used to, the work from home thing. I mean, but honestly, the thing that's been the most disruptive is just sort of the mental health factor, genuinely, is just trying to not be overwhelmed by the stress of what's going on in the world, and then in a professional way, not be overwhelmed with the stress of everybody being like, you're home, you can do that, you already work from home.
Right.
So I think I think everybody kind of just getting and the stress of just not knowing who in your family and friends and work is healthy and not. So it has been disruptive, but I feel like this week, again, I think we've sort of figured out a routine and we're getting used to it a little bit, unfortunately.
I also feel like there's a little bit of this, well, there's pressure on everyone, but on writers, people are always like, Shakespeare wrote King Lear in quarantine. And I'm like, well, I am
Right.
not writing King Lear, just so we're
Yeah,
clear.
no. Yeah, how about I just transcribe King Lear for everybody and I'll send that out. That's how we'll do it. That sounds great. I also then wrote King Lear during quarantine.
I wanted to ask, because you're getting ready to make your directorial debut. There's these figures about how women are not getting the same opportunities, and we behind the camera, and I think that's improving. Not that we should get complacent, but at least people are paying attention. When you hear those figures, does that discourage you, or does it motivate you to like get out there and do it?
It definitely motivates me. I think that um, I would like to get to a point when we're just talking about writers and directors without gender specifications. We're not saying female director or female writer or whatever. I think that's it's the flattening the curve of the of the directing and writing world. But it does motivate me, and I was really, again, with this project in particular, I was super fortunate that the team at Universal was really one of the first meetings I ever had with them was talking to me as a director. And this was really much earlier than it was a few years ago. It was before I had really been committed to doing it. And it's because they're like, we need female voices. We need to have a different perspective out in the world. So I think it is motivating, and I think people are making the strides to change it. It's a long way to go before it is even, and before we do have that perspective that we need, because it turns out we're 50% of the world.
And you've worked, all your movies have had amazing directors. I mean, Spielberg's okay. And you had Brett Haley on All the Bright Places. And is it Jonathan, is it Levine or Levin?
Levine, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
On a Long Shot, who I love. I love 50/50 as well. Are there things you're going to be, like, you've picked up from them that you're going to be poaching and,
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, I think I've been very fortunate to also be on set for almost every project I've done. And so being able to observe directors and be able to kind of get my feet under me on set and as a writer and as a filmmaker, I think has been very important to this process. And I also think having friends who are DPs and production designers and costume designers, I think that is just as important in sort of rounding out the full experience for myself and for my ability to direct. So I hope that I've picked up some things. Otherwise, I'm gonna be screwed.
And finally, I just like to ask everybody in this very abnormal time, what's helping you get through it? Are there shows you're binging, things you're reading, people? I know you have a puppy. That's got to take up a lot of energy.
The puppy is taking up some energy. We do a lot of walks now. She's used to either coming to my office or going to the dog park for 2 hours a day. And so those things are not happening. So we're getting a lot of exercise. Honestly, what's keeping me going is in terms of watching, my husband and I are trying to watch something new every day, something that one of us hasn't seen. So, be it like, we're so fortunate that they released those movies early. So we watched The Invisible Man and we watched The Hunt, and we're going to watch Emma. And so seeing these movies that I'm happy to support and hopefully other people are, and Birds of Prey. So like all these things that got screwed in their release. So we're doing that, which I've found distracts me from, watching whatever the last 15 minutes of a movie that I've seen the last 15 minutes of 100 times and I'm on my phone. So that's been helpful. So we're doing that. But honestly, it's connecting with people has been the most, I think inspiring and motivating thing that keeps me going. Is it's unfortunate that it is this circumstance we're in where I've found that we can play Trivial Pursuit on FaceTime with, my in-laws and my husband's siblings. And so, being able to, or virtual cocktail hours or whatever it is, I think, that's been being able to see people's faces and connect to people and see and hear how they're doing has really been important. And then honestly, just like going outside, not being stuck inside, sitting in the sun and getting some vitamin D and, just not being overwhelmed by what's going on.
I was actually really missing human faces and interaction. And then I just walked down the street to like pick up an order, and actually interacting with people cured me of that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm good. I can stay in my home for another week. But I do agree, it made a big difference just getting outside and being in the sun.
Yeah, the sunshine. I mean, there's a reason that people go crazy when they're stuck inside and don't go outside. I mean, it's really been helpful to just, when you feel that kind of overwhelming sensation of what's going on in the world and you've been watching the news for too long, just going outside for 5 minutes has been really helpful. So I mean, I think I'm doing all the same thing everybody else is doing. It's just trying to kind of stay above water, and everybody stay healthy and stay inside.
And I would recommend everyone check out All the Bright Places on Netflix if you haven't already. Watch it again if you had. I've actually
Appreciate it.
I've seen it 3 times now, and I noticed something
Oh
different.
my gosh.
Yeah. It's like I know writers do different versions sometimes of screenplays where they're like, I'm going to do it from this person's point of view, or this person's point of view. That's how I watch it sometimes, and I'm like, this time I'm
Mm-hmm.
just going to watch it from Justice Smith's character point of view. So,
Yeah. I thank you so much. That's so great. I love that movie. That was a real project of passion between for everybody on the movie. But we got so close. The director Brett Haley and I, and Elle Fanning and Justice Smith, who play the two leads, we were in Cleveland for 8 weeks, I think, making the movie, and all living in the. Oh, there she is. There's the puppy.
is that the puppy?
That's the puppy barking at a gnat walking 20 miles away, but the wind blew, so she's got to let us know. But it was really like we just got so close, and it was such a, I think, for us, important movie about what we were saying and how we wanted to say it. And so I'm really happy that people had the opportunity to check it out. And we also made it almost 2 years ago, so it's nice to have it out in the world now.
Yeah. It's one, and I mean this as a compliment, but sometimes you see a project and you think there's so many ways this could have gone wrong, and then
Oh yeah, for
you're
sure.
so happy that didn't happen.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it was a tightrope to walk, for sure.
Well, it's really great. I hope everybody checks it out. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us, and for giving me an excuse to put on pants.
Ditto. Thanks.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.